So we do need this drawing back. And next thing we're going to do is we are going to create, oh, you know what? I made a mistake. So this area here, because we're going to have our outer area, and you know what? There was one other that I missed. So we're going to go back to the drawing, and I'm going to show you why I missed or what I missed. So we're going to come back here and edit the sketch. And what I want to show you here is we did the 1.8 in this outer, a 2, another 1.8, and another 1.8. What I really wanted was the 1.8 and a 0.2. So instead of having this being one large gap, which would work, we're going to have a problem here if we go forward as far as the overall width. So when we do the bottom piece that's going to insert, we don't want that to be 2. We only want it 1.8. So I know I'm kind of going around in circles here, but I've got a reason for what I'm going to do here. So instead of the 2, we are going to go to the 1.8. So this 2 was referenced from over here. And actually, we're going to do 0.2 on the outside. So this is going to be quite small. That's going to be a 0.2. And see how that did that all the way around for me? So it created that 0.2 gap right here all the way around because I only had to change the one dimension and it referenced it all the way around. And now the rest of these are actually right. So we do want the 1.8 and the 0.2. When we extrude those together, we are going to have a 0.2 gap, which is going to give us enough tolerance for when these go together. All right. I hope you followed that. Sorry, I'll see if I can come up with a way to explain that better in the comments if needed, but that's this design here. All right. So now we've got the base being 0.2, and then we are actually going to include this outer edge. So the reason being, and this is where I realized I made my mistake, this area right here is going to be the outside lip to catch everything. Collectively, these two spaces here will be the groove that the lower piece is going to go in. And then this piece inside here is what's going to come up, raise up, and give us that inner area. And it's going to make sense here as we go. I just apologize as this may not be the most intuitive just because of how it's going to, can't say nest, but how it's going to complement each other as it goes together. All right. So now we are going to go with a, my decision was to go with a 5mm deep socket or groove. So that means this outer edge I want to raise up a little higher than that, so I got some interaction between the materials. So we're going to raise this up 7. So I'm going to do an extrude here, and we're going to raise it up 7. And that gives us our outer ridge. Now, the inner ridge is going to go up the 0.5 plus give us a little bit more, so we're going to go 2 above that. So we're going to, that little 2mm band that we had is going to be what I'm going to work on next. Okay, so moving on, we're going to do that 0.2, so that really narrow gap here. We're going to do that one next. So we're going to have to get zoomed away and, it wants to do a new body, which is going to be correct because it isn't physically touching anything else right now. All right, so now we're going to get zoomed way in here. Now we want this little track right here. So we're going to do an extrude of this little track. Get right in here. And now that'll highlight all the way around. But this is going to be part of that groove. So we are not going to do it from a profile plane. We are going to do an offset. So we want that groove to be 5mm deep. So we're going to offset it by 5mm. So it's going to start 5mm from the bottom. And then we're going to go a distance of 2mm because we want it to match this outside lip here. So now they should both be together. And we're going to do a join because it's going to add it to that outside one. So now if we take a look, and I think I can do this for you quick, if we do a section analysis just to let you see what we're building here, and we're going to do it here, and let's move it, oh, I don't know, right about here, somewhere near the middle, and we are going to look at this edge of it. So now what we should see, and it's really hard to see because it's so small, but it's just that 2.2 millimeter lip. So that did exactly what we wanted to do. So this is the 2 millimeter edge that started 5 millimeters from the bottom and went to the top of this 7 millimeter height outside. All right, so I just did that so you could see it. There wasn't any real need to get in here, but I wanted to show you what we were accomplishing. So now the next part we're going to do is going to be what will be the outer edge of the container. So that's going to be this groove right here. So this one, again, we're going to get it highlighted so we can work with it. And again, we're going to do that 5 millimeter offset because that is also part of the groove. So this 1.8 and the 0.2 we did before is going to give us that offset just slightly larger than the outside edge of the unit. So we're still going to do that same 5 millimeter offset. And once it's 5 millimeters off, we're going to say how tall we want that wall to be. I had predetermined I wanted it to be 42 millimeters overall, so if we're starting out 5 high, we're going to go 37 millimeters in addition. And that's going to get us our box. Now, we got a box, but we do have an opening. So now if we look at that section analysis, we should see, and we do, you can actually, if you line it up real close, you can see that there's a 0.2 offset from here to there, which is the difference between having just the first and the second. That's why I didn't do both of those at the same time. I only wanted that 0.2 millimeters to come up to this level. All right, we're going to take that back off. We're going to get back to the drawing. And the good part is, for the most part, we're darn near done. The only thing we have left is if we look from the top, we've got this gap. So that was by design, if you will. So what we're going to do is we're going to create that 1.8 width is going to go from the very bottom, so there's not going to be any offset this time, and it's going to go up to the 7 millimeter mark, which means it's going to cover this 0.5 or this 5 millimeter height right here, and that's what's going to join all our pieces together. So this should be pretty uneventful. We're going to come in here, we're going to grab that ring, and we're going to start from the bottom so we don't do any offset, and we're going to come up 7 millimeters, and that should fill in our box. And now if we look, we're back down to one body. Before we had several because we didn't have any one common spot. So again, get a look at our section analysis. This is what's going to give us what we wanted. So we've got this groove that goes all the way around is going to exactly match up with this wall, other than the groove is 0.2 millimeters wider. After I build it, I might find out that, hey, with the tolerances of the machine and so forth, that's not adequate, but that's how this is going to get built. So now what I'm going to do, because I am printing this with a 3D printer, if you've done 3D printing, you're going to know that when it prints, it doesn't like having no support underneath it. It's very capable of making a bridge between these, so I don't necessarily need to do anything in here. However, when I've got a thin outer wall, and if you look at the footprint it's going to have, this outer wall is only going to be 1.8 millimeters thick on the print bed. So when it tries to bridge this together, just the nature of it, putting the filament across and cooling, it is going to draw the sides together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this analysis off. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a chamfer in on both of those ridges so that it builds the material out so they touch each other before it tries to bridge. That's going to preserve the integrity of that space. So for that reason, I am going to come in here and we are going to start with a chamfer rather than a fillet, because I do want it to be like a 45-degree angle. and we're going to see how much it lets me do here on the friendly side. And we are going to choose, we got to make sure we're catching the bottom one, so we got to get the right angles here. And oh, we're going to turn off the sketch as well because that's adding a little bit of confusion for me. There we go. So we're going to catch that one. We're going to catch that one. And we're going to have to do that on each edge. This one. This one. Oh, now on the top edge, we got to make sure we're getting the bottom edge. And this one. So now we're 3/4 of the way around. Got to make sure we're catching the right one all the way around. The trick is with Fusion 360, good or bad, it does let you see the lines below. So it is possible that we get on the wrong plane here and we end up goofing up and getting the wrong set. So we do have to be careful of that. But now I think we're pretty good. Because we are 2 millimeters, because we have that 2 millimeter gap, and these are going to be coming up at 45s, I'm going to do 1 millimeter in from each side, and that should bring it to a peak. So if we do that, I'm going to say okay here. We're going to get another look at that section analysis once my computer catches up, and we should see a nice taper going to the center. And let's see if that's what it gives us. And it does. So what's going to happen now is as it builds that out, it's not going to be pulling in on the outside of this build as it comes up, and it should give it really good strength here. Now we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to put a chamfer in here and a chamfer in here, actually probably a fillet down here to give it an easier, I don't know, it can be either or. I'll decide that here in a minute. And once we're all done with that, we have essentially got our build done. Then if I want to modify how tall this is, the only dimension I have to change is going to be how far I extruded this. So I'm going to save this out just so I can go back to it real easy and I can show you what I'm referring to there. And if we come back into this height right here, if I choose to, now I can make this 60 millimeters tall, and that's the only dimension I have to change to make that container taller. Or if I don't want it to go, if I just want it to be a cover, I can come back, I think as low as 5 millimeters. I could do 7 and it'll be flush from the top, but if I do 5, and we are looking here, that's going to result in, probably not quite what I'm looking for. So I'm sorry, it's got that 5 millimeter offset. So if we only do 5, we got nothing. So if we do up to the 5 millimeter offset, we do a 2 millimeter. Now we have got, once we say okay to this, and it fills in those other things we did afterwards, now we've just basically got a top. And this is going to be just a cover. It still has that ring in there. It still gives us some strength, and it's a real basic design. So I'm going to undo those changes because I want to go back to the size I had. And yeah, make sure this is our 37, which gives me my 42 overall height. So, all right. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to finish this off by putting some chamfers around there. I'm sorry, some rounds or fillets around there and some chamfers. But that is essentially what it's going to take. With any success at all, I will probably put something like this up in either Thingiverse or Prusa's Printables page. And hey, I'd love it if you could subscribe or like or whatever platform is that gives you the options to do. And let me know if you found this useful. Thank you.